Hello, and welcome to episode 8 of the Brand Bites podcast. I'm your host today, Laura Richards, account director here at Ride Shotgun, and I'm thrilled to bring you another episode. For this International Women's Day special, which is all about accelerating action, we've booted the men off the sofa and we're putting our female creatives front and centre. Today, we're sitting down with Jo Thatcher, Vanessa Wells, and Fiona Barber to talk career progression, industry challenges, and what it takes as a woman to make it in the advertising industry. Our theme: what is your best piece of advice for career progression? Hello, hello, hello.
Hello.
Thank you so much for coming today. This is nice having all the girls.
I know.
To kick things off, do you want to give me a little intro about yourself, what you do at Ride Shotgun?
Yep. So I'm Jo. I head up the CGI styling and art direction, and I'm based in Manchester.
Hi, I'm Fee. I'm a content writer based in the Sheffield office.
Hiya, I'm Vanessa. I'm a video editor based in the Leeds office.
Nice. Like I said, it's amazing to have you here talking about all things women in advertising. To kick things off, let's talk about change. Change is always happening. Everything's always evolving. In your career, what would you say has been the biggest change you've had to adapt to in the industry, and how did you manage it? Fee, do you want to kick things off?
So for me, I started my career as a feature writer, writing for local lifestyle magazines, but then kind of took a bit of a sideways path into client services, working in an agency. But then I realised I really wanted to get back into a creative role in writing. So the biggest change for me was kind of figuring out how to navigate that, and then also getting back into that role. So, I created a plan. I did a freelance journalism course to boost my confidence and took a role in-house in marketing.
And Fee, when you made that career change, did you feel like when you went to your new career, your new decision, did you feel like you went in at the same level, or did you feel like you had to kind of work yourself up the ladder again?
I think it definitely felt like I took a kind of diagonal step backwards. It was a step backwards in terms of salary, in terms of seniority, but it definitely kind of felt like I was on the right track, the track that I wanted to be on, rather than kind of keep climbing the ladder on a route it wasn't what I wanted to do. It wasn't kind of the path that I wanted to follow.
You knew you'd done the right thing.
Definitely,
your gut was like, I've done the right thing.
Yeah, and I think it all worked out for the best, because I loved working in an agency. I enjoyed working in an agency, but I just knew that client services wasn't for me. I think client services is a much harder job than I think a lot of
Tell me about it.
a lot of people realise. Yeah, definitely. So I think now that I've got the best of both worlds, I'm doing the right in.
Yeah.
But I get to work in an agency with loads of brilliant creative people.
Yeah, good for you. And Vanessa, what about you? Have you got any experience where you've had to adapt to change, or felt that you've had to kind of move up the ladder again?
Yeah, so I've taken a bit of a wiggly path to get to where I am at the moment. I did media production at uni and always wanted to be a video editor. And I've sort of weaved that in through the jobs that I've had since I left uni, but I've never been a full-time editor up until now. So I went into teaching for a bit. I went into being a projectionist in a cinema. I went into graphic design, and I think all those things have brought me to where I am and bring transferable skills to where I am. And I'm like hugely grateful for the paths that I took and the decisions that I made at the time. They were all the right decisions for me. But now I feel like I've got a much more rounder experience, and it all leads in, especially the graphic design leads into titling and motion design that I'm doing now.
Yeah, that's amazing. And obviously with change, it's all about staying relevant, learning new skills and kind of getting ahead of the game. Jo, have you got any experiences where you've had to learn something new to stay relevant in your career?
Oh gosh, I'm always learning. This job it brings a new challenge every day. It's probably not a good thing to admit, but when I started this job, I applied. I didn't actually know what CGI was. It was a long time ago.
I didn't know what a render was anyway.
But obviously learn on the job, learn all the different skills. But like Vanessa was saying before, I think there was lots of skills in previous roles, which weren't my dream job, which weren't where I wanted to be, that actually were really transferable now. So the customer service, we deal with customers every day, clients. So understanding what they want, technology, we're learning so much all the time. AI is another big one that
Yeah.
we're all on that journey with now. So yeah, learn everything every day.
Every day, yeah. And Vanessa, talking about your Wiggly route, like, would you say that there was any skills or learnings that you took from one role on that route to where you are now?
Yeah, so I think I've learned a lot throughout my career, and I enjoy learning. So I think if there's ever something that I don't know how to do, I'm always looking up tutorials online. I'm always, trying to keep up with like latest trends and how to do things. So I think when I started Ride Shotgun, I was actually in graphic design. And I think I learned a lot to do with, typesetting and things like that I've carried on into my role now as editor. So yeah, there's always something that you can pick up, and there's always something to learn off your colleagues and
Yeah.
Exactly.
bug them.
Yeah, that's a
like
big thing.
bug them about what they're doing and how they're doing things, because everyone's got a different way of doing stuff. So
Yeah.
I've learned a lot in-house over the
Yeah,
years.
same. Yeah, and like you said, every day is like a school day, isn't it? You learn something new.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting point, what you said about learning from colleagues.
Mhm.
I think one of the best things you can do if someone is really good at something, ask them how
Yeah.
you do it, whether it's presenting or using a certain piece of software.
Yeah.
Like, generally speaking, people are always really keen to help you if
Yeah.
you want to learn to do something new.
Yeah, definitely.
And the great thing about being part of it is there's so many different skill sets. Like, we've got strategy, we've
Yeah.
got CGI artists, we've
Mm.
got marketing geniuses. So
Yeah.
there'll always be someone to help.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. A massive topic that affects everybody, especially me, it consumes me, is imposter syndrome. We all struggle with it. It all hits us at some point in our career. Vanessa, have you ever experienced it? Do you feel it? And if so, how did you overcome it?
Yeah, I think it's something that rears its head
Yeah.
throughout, really. I think something that I've learned over the years is when I've started a new job, it's that sort of first few weeks where you're not really sure, am I doing okay? And I feel like I've sort of instigated a little bit of a feedback loop where I just sort of like, go to my manager and say, am I doing okay?
Yeah.
And that has it's really sort of quietened the demons down, quite easily. Just that one little request to have like a little chat and say, is everything going okay? And it always has. It's always
Yeah.
been
Yeah.
fine. But in the back of your head, you don't really know if you're doing okay.
Yeah.
You don't know if you've got it, like it's a new job. So I think that feedback's really important on a sort of like not formal request or anything, but
Yeah.
just like can I have some of your time to see how things are going? And it's
Yeah.
always going better than you think it is.
Yeah, which probably leads me to the next question I was going to ask. Like, have you got advice to someone feeling it? But that's probably is your advice. Like,
I think it
ask the
is. I
question.
think two-way communication is really important to ask for that feedback. And I also think when you do get a little bit of feedback about something going well, remember those
Yeah.
bits. Like,
Yeah.
it's easy to put that in the back of your head and concentrate on
Yeah.
like something you didn't do very
Mhm.
well or just didn't go as planned.
Yeah.
And it's important to remember the stuff that did, because it's harder to pull those bits
Yeah.
from your brain sometimes. But yeah, keep those in
Definitely.
the forefront.
I have a folder on Google Drive that I keep. It's like my feel good folder.
Oh, that's
Nice.
amazing.
Screenshots of like really nice client feedback in there, just for the
That's
days where I
really
need a little
good.
boost.
Just when you're having a
think
wobble.
Yeah.
Everybody needs that.
Everyone
Yeah,
needs that.
that's
Yeah.
such a good
Big
idea.
policy.
I'm gonna do
Yeah.
that.
Right, let's roll it out. Let's make it our mission.
It's interesting what you were saying about how to combat imposter syndrome. I think if you're lucky enough to be able to have those conversations with someone, I think that's great. But when you're in your head, I think tackling it as you would
Yeah.
any anxiety and question whether it's kind of fact or fiction is a really good way to deal with it. And then, if there's something that you feel like you need to do about it, whether it's kind of made up and it's in your head, or whether you feel like you're not good at presenting and maybe you need some help with that to grow your skills, then I think that can help as well.
Yeah, I like the fact and fiction thing, because actually a lot of the bad stuff we tell ourselves is fiction. It's just purely made up.
Yeah.
And when you look for the evidence, it's kind of not there.
Yeah.
And you go like, well, I don't know why I keep repeating this, because I've got no evidence for it whatsoever.
Yeah, definitely.
So that's a good, it's a lot of the time it's
Write it
fiction,
down and
isn't it?
question it.
Yeah. Jo, obviously we've worked a lot on creative pitches, our favourite thing. You've worked on many more than me. Is there any advice that you can offer someone or you can share on how to sell an idea and gain that recognition?
So with pitches, I think it's all about interrogating the brief and understanding the client. Some of the best pitches that I've worked on, obviously answer the brief and give the client what they want, but also showcase our creative flair. So it's about knowing when to push the boundaries, when to play it safe. And I think you just have to remember that you have been hired because of your skill set.
Yeah.
You've been brought on a job because you are an expert in that field. So it's about being confident and knowing that you have that skill. And then also just having that respect for the client, having the dialogue, really just sort of thrashing it out with them, being quite relaxed. And I think that gets the best outcomes.
Yeah, it's that self-belief as well, because if you don't believe it yourself, how are you going to convince a client to believe you or sell it into a client?
Exactly.
Yeah. How do you prep to do presentations? As someone that struggles to present confidently at all, I want to know, what are your kind of tips and tricks?
So I would write it all out. So if you've ever been on a trends presentation with me, they are long. So I spend a lot of time just writing it out, just to make sure that I've got everything that I need to say. I never read from that. It's like a comfort, just have it there. And I think, I think drop a couple of jokes in there, make it a bit more relaxed. I think that always helps, especially if you know the client and you've worked with them. We've got, a good relationship with a lot of our clients, and they've known us for a good few years, so we can have that rapport with them and things like that.
Okay, that's good to know.
And in terms of confidence, how much does confidence play a role in your career progression? I didn't realise this until researching for this podcast, but research shows that men are more likely to apply for roles that they're not necessarily qualified for because they believe that they can interview and get it and they've got this, whereas women apply for roles that they are purely qualified for. As women, how can we support each other and build confidence and advance our careers?
Ooh, I think it's a tough one, isn't
Send
it?
an inspirational quote.
Yeah. I think part of it is having conversations like these to make more women aware of the fact that we aren't going for roles because we don't think we're qualified, and trying to identify why that is. I think in terms of how to support other women excel in their careers, one thing that really helped me when I was struggling with knowing how to move from client services into a more creative writing role, even though I had a writing background, that was a confidence thing.
Yeah.
I think in the back of my head, I probably knew that I could do it, but I didn't feel like I could because I'd been out of writing for so long. So I did an evening freelance for journalists course. So I think those courses can work two ways. Firstly, you're sharing, as the person delivering the course, you're sharing your experience and kind of growing your business and your expertise. But then obviously from my point of view, I was gaining all of the skill sets and kind of the know-how. It doesn't have to be a huge financial investment if you can find a little course. And I know there's lots of courses on LinkedIn that you can take just to help you build that confidence and take the next step.
Vanessa, what about you? Have you got any kind of advice on how women can support each other and build that confidence?
I think when applying for jobs, if you see the sort of job description or the job criteria and think, oh, well, I know most of this, but I don't think I know like points 1, 2, and 3, or even just one point on that list, it's still definitely worth applying. Because you need to be able to bring something to that role and grow with it. And I think that should be really exciting for an employer because they want to push you and to get the best out of you. And I think that, there should be development in that role as well, where you if you comfortably hit all the criteria, then you're going to be potentially a bit bored.
Yeah. Where are you going to go?
Yeah. So you need some fire in your belly about
Yeah.
learning and about progressing within that role. So I really don't think that looking at a job spec that you have to hit all of those marks straight off.
Yeah,
Agreed.
and I think part of it as well is a lot of companies are recruiting on, yes, experience, of course, but culture as well, and the
Yeah.
kind of person that you are. Like, do you
Yeah.
fit
Yeah.
the company values? Do you fit within the rest of the team?
Yeah.
So I think experience is obviously important, but should we say you need to hit 75% of a job spec,
Yeah.
and then the rest of it can be your fit as a person.
Yeah, based on you as a person, yeah. Here at Ride Shotgun, we are all about collaboration, and as a creative agency, it is all about how we get the best ideas for our clients. Jo, has there been a time where you've kind of collaborated that's led to a brilliant outcome, whether it's on a project or just internal or external? And what did you learn from that experience?
So we collaborate on a daily basis, whether that's working with strategy in Sheffield on a new brand development for a client, or whether that's doing some CGI imagery for a US client. It's one big team that brings it all together. So, from where it starts to where it finishes, everybody's got a role to play.
Yeah.
I think what makes a great collaboration is just respecting each other's skill set and talent. Like we were saying before, everybody brings something different to that table. So, and asking opinions, welcoming different opinions. I'm really proud of our projects and our collaborations, whether that's like the amazingly talented CGI artists in Bulgaria, or whether that's, the Strat team that are bringing all their wise wisdom that we would never think about. And it's just really exciting when there's a really big group of people and we can all come together to deliver that amazing outcome.
Yeah, because we were talking earlier about our role is very much constantly based on feedback from clients, feedback from other internal disciplines. And it's about accepting that feedback and taking it on board and being like, oh, actually, yeah, they're right. I could do that, and working collaboratively. So
yeah, love it when people come back with different ideas or a different spin on it, something that you might not have thought about. That's really exciting.
Yeah. Onto mistakes. We all make them, and me in particular. What's a challenge that you've faced that has seemed really daunting at the time, but actually when you look back now, you think, oh, I nailed that. I'm glad that happened.
Oh, I think for me, so I'm not really a conceptual copywriter. My skill set is more in sort of longer form content and blogs, that kind of thing. But there's been a few times where I've been involved in some of the more conceptual projects, and I've literally thought like, oh my God, no, I can't do this. I can't do this. Let me leave the room. But it's actually turned out all right, and even got some really great feedback. So I think just trying to say yes within your kind of comfort zone, like doing this podcast, for example, is not something I was particularly comfortable with. But you never know, like generally speaking, things are never as bad as what you think they are. It's a little bit like going to the gym. You never want to go to the gym, but you always feel pretty good afterwards.
So from what you were saying, I think it's about keeping going.
Yeah.
So you may think that you can't do something, or you're faced with a new challenge at work and you're like, oh my God, I've got no reference. I've never done this before. But you push through that. And I think that not giving up sort of mentality that you have to have, because the deadline's not going anywhere. No one else is going to do it for you. And you just have to like plow through it. And I think that little seed of like, oh my God, I need to drop this and run away. Once you get over that feeling and you actually tackle it head on, you can do it. There'll never be something that's so out of your range that you literally do have to leave the building. So you do have to like get through that kind of a pain barrier, I guess, and just
it's like the resilience.
Move forward and keep going, and you do get over that hump, and then at the end of it, you're like, oh my God, how did I do that? I did do it, and that builds you up for next time.
And also, what an amazing confidence boost as well once you've done it.
I think just to your point, just giving yourself a little pep talk. I had to do it the other day.
Yeah.
I just be
Yeah.
like, you can do this. Come on.
Yeah.
You got this.
You've got
Yeah.
this.
And
Yeah.
and I'm going to definitely get that folder.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100%. We need to share the folder. And talking about confidence boosts and confidence, what do you do to maintain that confidence, and and confidence is also linked to good mental health. Like, how do you look after your mental health? How do you have that work life balance to switch off and have a reset?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's making sure that I feel well in myself. So doing all the usual good things like getting enough sleep, getting enough exercise, eating well, and doing something to let your hair down every once in a while.
Yeah.
Like whatever brings you peace. For me personally, it's
Yeah.
gardening and my vegetables, which I love. I know I'm 34 going on
We're
74.
assessing that to you.
We're going to see 5.
Yeah. But yeah, whatever it is, going to the cinema with friends, I think if you feel good in yourself, then you'll generally perform better at
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, agreed. Okay, we're going to end with some quick fire questions. Jo, I'm starting with you. What is the one piece of advice that you would give to women starting their journey in this industry?
Okay, so I would say always trust your intuition. It's stronger and better than you think it might be. Surround yourself with really positive female role models, and ask all the questions.
Thank you. Vanessa, how do you stay inspired and push your creative boundaries here at Ride Shotgun?
I think inspiration, it's really good to go to in-person events, talks. I've always enjoyed looking out for things on Eventbrite and seeing what is happening in my local area. Recently, the team from Ride Shotgun went down to Motion North, and we saw a full day of speakers talking about their industry, talking about how they started, showing us like amazing work. And it's so inspiring to see that and to be around that. And then, the atmosphere of a day like that, you're around other creatives, you get chatting. There was a bar.
Always helps.
There was some networking.
Yeah, we'll all go next time.
So events like that, but I mean, that was a full-on day. You could go to, a festival. There's so many film festivals and things to take part in, let alone submit your work to these things. There's so much to get involved in outside of work that can inspire you. And I think the in-person events is something that's like so good to get, line up, get a notification on Eventbrite and, get pinged when something comes up in your area.
Yeah. I suppose at those things, you meet people as well, don't you? You can bounce off people and
Yeah.
What's the best event that you've been to, do you think, for inspiration?
I mean, I'd have to say the most recent one, which was Motion North. There was just so much information and so much, there was so many inspiring talkers. There was a guy there from Territory Studio who does all the on-screen displays for films and stuff.
Oh, nice.
So sweet.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's so good. Yeah. So it's hugely inspirational.
Cool. And Fee, what would you say was the one creative shortcut or hack that helps you work smarter at Ride Shotgun?
I think for me, it's been the rise of AI and things like ChatGPT. I was initially really worried about these things when they kind of first blew up a couple of years ago. But I think, it's the way that the world is going. You've got to accept it and just figure out how you can kind of use it to make yourself and your role more efficient. So for me in my role, I would use ChatGPT to, for example, take a hugely long interview and condense it down into the key points. I think you can use it as a tool, but it's not necessarily going to replace me.
No. Yeah.
You can use it to refine things or almost as like a sounding board sometimes. But I would like to think that it can't do what I can do.
No one can replace you.
Thank you.
What I usually say is like, ask the dumb questions. I don't want to be like, oh,
No.
make people feel dumb, but it's like, ask maybe the obvious questions.
Yeah.
Because sometimes you might be sort of sat there thinking, I can't ask this question. It's too obvious. Like everyone knows that, don't they?
Yeah.
And then the further down the line you go, you've not asked the question.
Yeah.
And then you're like, I wish I'd have asked that
Yeah.
question sooner.
Yeah.
It's too late now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so that's one. And then don't assume that everyone knows more than you do.
Yeah.
I think like you've always got something to offer. Don't hold back. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I sort of think like, oh, well, everyone knows that.
Yeah.
And I'll say something and people don't
Yeah.
know everything. Like
Yeah.
you just presume everyone knows more than you, but
Yeah.
it's not always the case.
And even now, if I give input to something and someone will say, "Oh, that was a really good point, actually," you're like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
You know, it's that.
Yeah. I think for me, it would be never leave a job on a bad note. I'm not saying you have to be best friends with anyone,
Yeah.
but the agency world is smaller than you might think.
Very, yeah.
So I think having those friendly professional relationships are really important and maintaining those when you can.
Yeah.
My other piece of advice would be to learn from other people as much as you possibly can, even if it's not a skill set within your particular role, the way someone interacts with other colleagues, their presenting skills, anything like that can be really helpful.
Agreed. Yeah, that's
And
really good advice.
Don't be disheartened if you aren't starting out where you thought you'd be. Everybody's path is different. Everyone arrives at different paces.
Yeah.
I think it sounds cliche, but you probably are where you're meant to be.
Yeah.
And what you want will come.
Yeah, I was speaking to someone yesterday and we were talking about comparison. Don't compare yourself to anyone. It's just the thief of joy. There I go with my quotes. But it is, don't compare. Like you said, you are where you are and you are there for a reason.
Yeah.
And
I think making the most of that role as well. Sometimes if you're not in the role that you feel like you want to be in, it can be easy to get a bit downtrodden and maybe not make the most of it. But you'll often find out later that actually the skills that you've learnt within that role, you can carry them throughout your career.
Yeah.
I think as well, if you're a creative, then do something creative in your own time.
Yeah.
Nurture your fun projects.
Yeah.
When I started in so when I got the interview for graphic design at Ride Shotgun, we talked more about the creative projects that I'd done on the side than any of my actual formal work that I'd done, because those were the more interesting bits and pieces, really. So I think, get yourself a side project and that's how you learn as well.
Yeah. And I suppose what you were just saying about, doing things out of work that you find fun that are part of what you do in your role is also really good for your mental health as well. What we talked about earlier about looking after your mental health and keeping that self-confidence going. So yeah, that's amazing. Thank you. I think that's all we've got time for today. Thank you for coming. Thank you for sharing your stories. I know it was out of your comfort zone. It was out of mine too. So I really appreciate it. I think the standout points for me were, celebrate the wins. Look after your mental health. It's okay if you take the Wiggly route in your career, and definitely have a Google folder with all your highlights. Let's continue the conversation, share on our social, share on your socials, and let's keep this going and inspiring other women in the industry.